Hi, my name's Zanni Louise, and I am a children's author. I write stories for children. Once upon a time, I was a little girl. Well, sort of little. I was about this tall when I was about 6 years old, maybe this tall. And we lived on a big property in Inverell. Well, actually, it was quite a small property. But we had chestnut trees, we had olive trees, we had rabbits that ate the olive trees, we had snakes, we had emus, we had ducks and chickens and all sorts of things. But my most favourite thing on the property was an olive tree which was down the very end, and it had big beautiful branches that wrapped up like a cave, and I used to sit inside of it. And I had all these friends who lived in the olive tree, and I would talk to them. There was a little family of bears, there was a little fairy who lived way up high, and there was a really mean king that lived down the road, and we used to talk about how nasty he was. And I spent hours down in that olive tree talking to my friends, and we made up stories. And then my dad got a typewriter. Have you ever heard of a typewriter? Well, it's a big kind of boxy machine, and it's got really loud keys that you have to press down really hard, and they make a really loud clunky noise. And when you press them down, they make letters. And I use these letters to make stories. And I wrote lots of stories by the time I was about 6 or 7 in my very best guess spelling. And one of my stories was called The Time When Grandma Visited. And it goes a little bit like this. It was over a week when Grandma visited. What trouble she made. She was a real big pest. I could not believe it. First she dug up the garden, then she pulled out the flowers. What next? More and more trouble. Then she sat on the bed and broke it. Then she rushed out the door and it fell off. And then she squashed some tomatoes and went sliding on them. Then she sat on a pumpkin and it went splash. More trouble all the time. Then Mum came in and said, "What a mess you have made, Grandma." And she had to go home. The end. And I kept on writing stories. And I kept on writing stories as I grew up and grew up and grew up, until one day I became an adult. A lady, some may say. And I still write stories. And now I write stories for children that are in books. Because I love reading stories with my children. And we sit down every night and we have a magical time together sharing these stories. Sometimes they tell me stories that they've made up too. Stories are a very special thing in our home, and I'm sure they are in yours as well. Stories connect us. They keep us together. They help us understand the world and each other. I will never get sick of making stories, and I look forward to sharing some of those stories with you.